Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to have you all here today. We appreciate you taking out the time to join us for this webinar. Hope you and your dear ones are all doing well and being safe. My name is Chupitora. I'm part of the customer success team at Zinnov Management Consulting and your session host for today. I hope I'm audible for all. For those of you whom we haven't had the pleasure of interacting with so far, I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce Zinnov before kickstarting today's session. Zinnov is an 18-year-old global strategy and management consulting firm with a core focus on product engineering and digital transformation. Back in the day, Zinnov's primary focus was to help global companies set up a footprint in India. Over time, the company has evolved to enable globalization in a much larger way, from helping go-to-market strategy, location analysis, product portfolio assessments, specialization in digital technologies, and so on. In India, we are predominantly based out of Bangalore and Delhi. Globally, we have offices in Seattle, Houston, and most recently, Paris. GAP, or the Global Center of Excellence Accelerator Platform, is a practice within Zinnov. As part of this practice, we focus specifically on how global R&D centers can drive maximum value from India. We assess existing centers in terms of expanding their scope of work and level of ownership in India, increasing their value contribution by assessing what components of their respective value chains can be executed from India, all the while not compromising on the country's inherent cost advantages. As of today, 200 plus companies are part of Zinnov's GAP platform. We also enable connections amongst the GCoE ecosystem and try to facilitate transformation in the most collaborative way. One way for GCoEs to create value is through innovation, which brings us to today's discussion, which is on innovation at workplace. As you all know, last year Zinnov hosted its annual awards for the 11th consecutive year, recognizing exceptional individuals and organizations at the forefront of technology innovation. Zinnov Awards continues to be an acknowledged gold standard in recognizing the outstanding achievements and pivotal contributions of GCoEs in India. And last year too, we saw an overwhelming response with 350 plus nominations from over 150 companies across 8 award categories. Zinnov Award Masterclass is a new initiative that we have kickstarted. Our objective is to get learners on a common platform where they get to share their experiences and journeys in excelling in their respective fields. Every month, we bring you one unique category wherein the winners of that category will talk about their achievements and best practices for us to learn from. Our area of focus today is an organization-wide category, Great Place to Innovate. This category recognizes GCoEs that have been building their innovation capability and have made substantial efforts defining an innovation charter, building a culture of innovation, driving innovation programs, both internal employees and externally to collaborate with startups and academia. We will be discussing each of them a bit more today. With this context, I'd like to go over today's agenda. Today, we have distinguished speakers within the ecosystem of innovation who will be addressing some of the prominent questions that GCoEs have in this quest. As established in the beginning, the innovation quotient of a center is a testament of its vitality. Today, we'll be exploring the path of innovation of Micron, a world leader in innovative memory solutions that transform how the world uses information, and MasterCard, a leading provider of financial services dedicated to bringing in innovative payment solutions to the market. And to represent them, we have with us Partha P, Director Technology Development at Micron Technology India, and Rajesh KS, Vice President Operations and Technology for APAC at MasterCard. The next segment is a panel discussion that will be moderated by fellow colleague Divya Jagasia. Divya is a project leader at GAP's innovative practice, Conext. At Conext, our focus is to help organizations build their innovation capabilities, both external and internal. On the external side, we have organizations with their startup collaboration programs and academic partnerships. On the internal side, we help individuals within large corporates to drive innovation with the mindset of an entrepreneur. I'd now like to call upon Divya to kickstart the segment. A quick note before we start the panel discussion. We will have dedicated time towards the end for questions and request you to keep sending us your questions through this chat window on the right of your screen. We will try to cover as many questions as possible during the allocated time. All right. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the session to Divya to introduce the speakers and kickstart today's session. Over to you, Divya.
Thank you, Jupiter, for that introduction. To kickstart the discussion today, I'll quickly go over an introduction for both of our speakers. So, our first panelist is Rajesh KS, the Vice President, Operations and Technology for APAC and MEA at Mastercard. Rajesh is an entrepreneurial professional with 18 years of experience across software engineering, product management, strategy, M&A, and corporate planning. An engineer and business executive by qualification, he has worked across the globe, including Sweden, UK, India, and parts of US and Germany. Uh, in his current role at MasterCard, he focuses on strategic program management, innovation, and operations. Welcome, Rajesh.
Thank you, Divya. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Our next panelist is Partha Parthasarthi, the Director, Technology Development at Micron India. He received his master's degree from IIT Bombay and his PhD from Université des Provinces in France. He has been associated with the semiconductor industry for over 20 years. And in our conversation today, he will share with us how each team at Micron India is walking that extra mile and driving game-changing innovations for the business. Welcome, Partha. To start off, I'll quickly want to ask each of you a question about your innovation at your center. So I'll start off with Rajesh. Rajesh, would request you to tell us a little bit about how MasterCard India has evolved into innovating for both local and global markets.
Thank you, Divya, and good morning to everybody here. Absolute delight to be amongst all of you this morning. So, being part of MasterCard is some journey in itself. And over the last 50 years or so, since the time MasterCard Global has been in existence, we've seen some amazing innovations coming along the way and touching the lives of people around the world. Indian markets have been no different. And it's about 7 years since we started our journey in India with an acquisition almost in 2014, and I will tell you that that journey has been nothing less than an amazing ride in a starting from a play school to continuing to graduate and specialize as you would in a scientific environment. So innovation has been at the crux of everything that we do. What used to be like nice to have has evolved into must have to an extent where it is pretty much embedded into our day-to-day lives here at Mastercard. There is innovation that is considered as given, and if it's not there, it's not part of your hygiene, then there's definitely something wrong or you're not part of the game plan. So innovation as such is just indispensable in the space that we operate in. Either we survive with innovation and thrive with it, or we just collapse. So yeah, to answer your question in short, it's been an integral part of our journey in Indian markets.
Thank you, Rajesh. Coming to Partha. Partha, could you also tell us a little bit about the innovation journey at Micron? It's really an organization that has been able to nurture innovation culture among employees. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, hi, happy to be here. Thank you very much, Divya. Hello, everybody. So I'm at the workplace, so I'll have to have my mask on. So that's the constraint I have. So Micron, I think many of you may be aware, it's a semiconductor memory manufacturer. So as an industry, right, semiconductors have been, let's say, have been evolving over many decades. And one of the bedrock of semiconductor industry is to have better performance, lower power, smaller devices, and at a price point which is always, good for the consumer. So this has been the bedrock of the industry right from the beginning. So it's kind of baked into it. So as a result, innovation is something which is part and parcel of how the industry has evolved. It's a foundation for the industry to be there in the first place. And among semiconductor is a vast field. Then there is the aspect of memories. Okay, so memory is a specialized part of the semiconductor ecosystem, and very few companies are able to work in this domain. So Micron is one of the very few companies which is able to have this leadership in this technology. And as we let's say over a period of more than 40 years, Micron has, let's say, made a lot of advances in the way the memory, let's say, the chipsets, the DRAM, flash, they have evolved. And just as a number, right? I mean, the capacity of memories today is millionfold better than what it was 30, 40 years ago. So the kind of scaling, what we call as scaling of the technology, has been an integral part of the technology of the industry itself, and so it's an integral part of our business. So Micron India has been here for something like a couple of years now, and it has had a very fast ramp up. And one of the highlights here is we have a large co-location index. There's a lot of functional groups which work with Mother Micron. And as a result, we have a very eclectic mix of professionals working together here. So some of the initiatives the innovation part is to continue, and it's let's say going forward with the next generation of technologies, it becomes much more imperative to have innovation as a fundamental, let's say, workplace practice. So to do that, there are multiple, let's say, collaboration initiatives where people come together, brainstorm on various topics, and have, let's say, try to find solutions to the not the state of the art, but the beyond state of the art problems. So there are multiple things. We will probably cover some of them as we go along. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Partha. So I'd like to dig in a little bit more into some of the initiatives that we discussed, that we received as part of your submissions and really stood out for us. So when we talk about the India ecosystem, we have we are in a very innovative ecosystem. So we have great talent on one side, and then we also have a vibrant startup ecosystem on the other side. So I'd like to ask both of you, would you like to tell us a little bit about how your organization has been able to maximize this innovative ecosystem that India is? So maybe Rajesh, we can go with you first.
Sure. Very crucial as part of the innovation journey of a company to ensure that we engage well with the thriving educational systems and the governmental provisions that are in our environment. Over the last few years, we've seen great amounts of investments flowing into the education sector, especially research and specialization. While on one side, you always believe that that isn't enough, we also have to see where it has been really coming in from. There's a fair amount of work happening in both tier one as well as in some of the top universities in the regions. And Mastercard has been privileged to, engage at various levels with some of these industries, industry-driven educational systems in these markets. While that's happening, we've also seen far more entrepreneurial interest coming in from the young population, or from the population that has built fair amount of experience from the corporate life, and have decided to move on to start, pursue their startup interests. Mastercard has been partnering on a continuous basis with a lot of these thriving ecosystems around startups. Given our primary interest to engage with partners who are looking to do away with cash, who are looking to go digital, since digital is the way of the future. We would find the Indian markets extremely lucrative in that way, and we've been ably supported both by the available talent, as well as the ever conducive government and regulatory systems that are evolving in the market. So I think we have built very good and robust processes, which has been time tested, and as well as globally tested, to engage with startups, to engage with universities across research, across some tactical engagements around certain projects, which could be of short time needs, as well as build an overall messaging around the fact that we are here for long, we are here for good, and the fact that this is not really a one-man show, but really a collaborative effect. And that way, we've seen that both the thriving startup ecosystem and the ever-growing educational ecosystem have been extremely conducive for a player like Mastercard in these markets. So it's just like I said, an exciting journey that just continues to move at a faster pace every day.
Great. So I'll come back again to know a little bit more about that journey, but Partha would like to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So at Micron, so we have a multidimensional approach to making sure that we have all the elements for a good innovation culture. One of it is inward looking, what I mentioned before. So we are able to leverage the high collocation index in Micron India to be able to have what we can call as communities of excellence, where different experts, they're able to work together on some of the problems and seek out some solutions. Looking externally, we have this umbrella program, University Research Alliance of Micron India, URAM. So this is a broad umbrella which seeks to cover different types of engagements looking externally. So starting from university, the different institutes where we have engagements with the student communities, we have the engagements with the faculty, and so we are pretty lucky to have excellent institutions out here in India, which has a large talent pool, not only of students, but also of faculty. So there are ongoing talks to have very good relationships for both students and with the faculty here. On top of it, there are, in India, we have some very robust industry associations, industry associations, so we are seeking to engage with them. There are a lot of government initiatives, and there are and also there is this emerging startup culture, what Rajesh was alluding to. So we are trying to engage in all these different aspects with this umbrella program of URAM. So that's the external part of it. Then there is the upward looking or aspirational looking, where increasingly we are driven by let's say a big data kind of a world, where the data is primarily all pervasive in many domains. The large amounts of data is fundamental to the way we need to analyze, the way we need to seek out answers. So we have global programs which let's say work with some of the leading research. Let's say we have leading research partnerships, for example, CERN, or it could be other places. So these are human scale discoveries, right? This be it origin of the universe, or human biome, genetics, and there are multiple problems, and these are very fundamentally big data driven. And as soon as we say data, since data is at the end of the day, it's a physical quantity somewhere. It needs to reside, it needs to be managed, it needs to be secured, it needs to be handled, it needs to be transported. So memory has a very big play in all these things. So that's the aspirational part. Looking sideways is to make sure that there is a lot of diverse thoughts, because innovation cannot happen with an individual or only one set of people. We need to have a lot of diverse thought in the system, and there's a strong focus to make sure that we have enough diversity in our environment, which will foster the innovation culture. Yeah. So these are the few points.
Great. Thank you. So I'll come back to that as well. Rajesh, I wanted you to help us understand a little bit about how is it that the startup collaboration that you have been running, how has it evolved over the years?
Sure. So the startup collaboration is you know, largely driven by the product and the market organizations at Mastercard, and it's run globally, and it's run pretty much the same way, no matter whether you're in Pune, where we have our innovation labs, or whether it's in the labs of Singapore, or in the New York City. So we have a very clear way of approaching and engaging with the startups and the ecosystem in general. It's really all about ensuring that we engage with a set of people who who have some easily implementable solutions out there addressing some grassroots problems or some potential upcoming problems that they foresee in the markets that are fast evolving in the payment space, or areas where they see that they have addressed a certain part of the problem, but rest of it could really be solved by a partner or a global network player like Mastercard, and therefore there's great room for collaboration, right? So in the process, we have learned a lot working with the startups. We often look to them as somebody who could not just be disruptive in the space, but also somebody who could evolve very quickly and be very stable, given the space we operate in, which is highly regulated, like Mastercard, right? So so that does mean that we love to take those calculated risks when you're engaging with startups. So for markets like India, where cash is still the big competition, it's not really our friends out there who are colored in blue or in gold, but it's really all about doing away with the biggest ever competition that one would ever have, which is cash, right? Nearly 90% of the markets in India still run by cash. So therefore, you have a lot of opportunities to go digital, to go find alternative means to the traditional currency market. And therefore, we would love to explore any such technologies, whether they are, the upcoming and disruptive technologies around, cryptocurrencies, quantum computing for high-powered transactions, or even simple partnership-like engagements, which could be addressing fairly large problems that all it requires is a certain like-minded set of people coming together and figuring out a solution for a problem. For example, working in the farmers market, right, where we've actually created a marketplace for farmers in Andhra Pradesh, and ensured that there is far more visibility, availability, and information at the tips of the hands of the farmers out there, and ensure that the entire value chain of the farming ecosystem is connected on a easy to operate platform like eRaitu, as we call it, right? Which is basically electronic farmer, right? So I think the way we look at innovation and engaging with startups is that there is a continuous process of evolving, ability to make quick changes and engage and look at scaling very quickly with them. And we've set some certain guidelines and entry points to ensure that when we are engaging with startups, we want to ensure that they have a fair amount of runway to ensure that the customers with whom we engage with are indeed getting the desired support for at least a couple of years when we decide to engage. And there is no set technology space that we would really like to stick to. It's pretty much diverse given where Mastercard operates. They do operate across a gamut of things, like I mentioned to you. And it's fast evolving. So yeah, so it's not just about established startup, but you have ideas, you are an innovator out there, you have it, you have that entrepreneurial stint and a hunger within. I think we would love to hear from you. So it's been amazing.
Rajesh, basis your experience, the Microsoft the Mastercard startup program definitely seems to be very evolved and structured. But there is a bunch of GCoEs here listening to us today who are trying to figure out how is it that they can engage with the startup ecosystem. How can they explore? How can they partner? So, what is your advice to them if you want to like really start engaging with the ecosystem and start to structure something? What do you really need to get started?
Yeah. So while larger organizations would come with their experiences and a slightly flexible wallets, you also need to understand that they're no different when it comes to seeking success from the markets, right? They would want to succeed fast, and to succeed fast, you will have to also learn to fail faster. And when we engage with startups, we would like to validate the business statements or the problem statements that they have fairly quickly and see and validate it and test them in the markets, right? And that is something that often happens in organizations like Mastercard, where we quickly validate, speak with the business units, all the respective regions, ensure that we go jointly with customers and see that whether this is indeed addressing a problem that people feel is big enough or is painful enough. And if it does, then we often have some very strong processes in place, which ensures that you could quickly move ahead with joint collaborations, prototypes, and actual implementations in the field, which could help us give the edge in the market, right? And in a competitive space like payments, we would definitely want to work with such startups who have that fire in the belly to ensure that they are willing to improvise as and when they need, pivot if required based on the changing market landscape, and engage with us. So it is often a very collaborative way. We also we as Mastercard also have to think in a startup mentality, while we understand that startups often have a fairly aggressive timeline in terms of hitting the markets and justifying the spends to their investors. We also need to understand that in a regulated market of like payments, there is often only so much that one could do. So it has to be a fine balance that one needs to establish while working with startups. And success often lies in the fact that whether the startup has the ability to and the organization in general has the ability to fail fast and recover from that and move on. So yeah, that's what we think is the success recipe.
Got it. Thanks, Rajesh. Partha, coming back to some of the initiatives that you mentioned. So, you've been speaking about the way you work with the academic institutions, and at both levels, you're engaging with students as well as faculty. So, could you tell us a little bit about how did you think about these programs and how do you approach it?
So, yeah, that's like I mentioned, like there are multiple facets of engaging with the students as well as the faculty there. So, some of the things are, for example, is our, let's say, we could, we are having some plans here to augment a little bit the curriculum. We can work with the universities to have some additional, curriculum which is more tuned to the semiconductor industry itself. On top of it, there are multiple hands-on experiences that can be provided to the students. Okay, so essentially, the idea here is to get a feel of what the industry is and the feel of challenges that the industry faces. So there is a very robust internship program, for example, so where the students can come on board, they get to experience some of the challenges firsthand, and are able to fine tune their careers to be able to step into this industry here. And with faculty, again, it's a question of engaging with the right research problems, where we are able to, let's say, provide some guidelines. It could have a wide range of, let's say, the interaction. Okay, we could be part, for example, we are part of one of the community of excellence, one center of excellence with one institute here in IIT Madras. We are looking at some engagements with other IITs. So the faculty, we are able to, we are looking at enhancing some of the research questions, both very formally, but also informally, to provide some guidelines with respect to problems, statements. So these are a few examples. Okay, after that, the outreach. There are also some other discussions with let's say the government in let's say the entities to have some let's say things to be in place.
Got it. A question I'd like to ask both of you is when we talk about innovation, we do want to focus on execution and the final value that we are able to deliver to business. But that is something, and our customers, now that is something that comes after some period of time, and it has a long incubation period, if I could call it. But there are significant short term benefits that as an organization you start to feel because you are innovating. Maybe it's becoming a better workplace, maybe it's just better for talent. Have you both experienced any kind of short-term benefits out of innovation? And maybe Partha, you can go first, and then I can come back to Rajesh.
So, as a general trend, right? I mean, it's also valid for in general the way the GCoEs, especially in this domain, they are evolved, and that kind of is a benefit, I would say, in a certain way, is the kind of work that's happening out here in the different, let's say, within the ecosystem. So over a period, I've seen it for more than a couple of decades, the way the work style and the kind of content that has been coming out of the centers here, it's now far more deep tech work happens here. Deep technology work comes out of this place. So this automatically, it's a virtuous cycle. I mean, so there are a lot more talented, let's say, students or other employees who tend to come into this ecosystem because they find it much more fulfilling. And as a result, the outputs become much better, and so they start to feed on each other. So this is something which is very much happening, very much seem to be happening at this time. So that's a very positive outcome. The other very important outcome, especially with respect to the Indian context, right? It's been repeatedly seen, especially when it comes to innovation. There's the aspect of intellectual property protection. Okay, it starts to be a very important aspect there. So it's been repeatedly seen that there's very robust laws. I mean, we are very safe when we operate out of India. So this gives additional confidence to the kind of, let's say, the work, the activity, and the kind of engagement that we have out here.
Great. Rajesh, what about you? What are some of the outcomes or benefits that you've seen in the shorter term?
Sure. So, just taking a leave from Partha, and I'm actually glad to share that the Indian centers at Mastercard produce the second highest number of patents for Mastercard globally, and this is quite amazing. And this is really possible with this continued and what I call the quick interest that come in from the new hires that we take in. They're so excited to see some amazing works that are happening here in the innovation eco space, whether it is in the AI garage in in Gurgaon, or in our labs and the customer innovation centers in Pune. I think we are engaging with various set of people across the value chain. And people who are our biggest asset are excited to see that beyond their day-to-day mundane work, they actually get to engage with or get to know about some of the cool and the sexy activities that are happening out there in the in the market, and they're able to relate to it because it's also local, and the fact that they could see the outcomes fairly quickly. So this is actually great when it comes to employee experience and employee satisfactions. We've seen our scores go a few notches higher in the last couple of years, thanks to some really cool engagements that are happening in the innovation markets. So I think this is an ongoing benefit, and it works two ways, right? Because the labs are also excited to invite anybody and everybody in the Mastercard from the Mastercard organization who would love to stretch and do beyond or provide or ideate beyond their their day-to-day works. So that's been definitely a great benefit. The other side of things is that we have had more customers now visiting our labs locally here on a fairly regular basis. They don't really have to, when I say customers, it's not just the big financial institution, but also, the governmental and the startups, right? Even startups are great partners in the space. I think there's a far more touch point that is established with our organization. So overall, the ecosystem satisfaction index, if I can call it, is certainly going up. We see that improving on a half yearly or almost an annual basis. So these are some really cool things which one actually doesn't get to so easily measure, but certainly very crucial for a thriving ecosystem.
Yes. Rajesh, taking from your point, there's another question I'd like to ask both of you. So when we talk about, employees having this opportunity now and it becoming so, a different kind of experience, another thing we get asked a lot is that you're asking people to stretch beyond the work that they're already supposed to do and give more to the organization. So have you both seen that in your experience, and how have you tackled it? Are there certain policies, or is it a mindset, or what is I would really like to hear from both of you about this.
Okay, so let me take a dig at that, Partha. So it's largely voluntary. It's really coming from within, right? That when you see that hey, there's something more exciting, or that sounds more exciting happening in your next room, you would want to go check that out. It's like kids coming back from school and going and playing, right? So it's no different. So that's how we really see it, and a lot of it is driven out of passion, and innovation is largely all about that. There's no set recipe really for success. Like I said, I think it's if you should be glad if you have 2 successes out of 10 possible recipes that you have tried out in the kitchen from a lab from innovation lab or in a startup environment. But to answer your question in short, I think it's largely about provisioning a very conducive ecosystem for enabling innovation. They could come in the form of simple processes, which people would want to, which people would have learned from their day-to-day works, and then bring it into an innovation ecosystem, or try implementing it elsewhere and make it sound far more useful for the markets. Or it could be a product innovation where people have been working on a certain problem statement for quite some time, and feel that a dedicated time on a sustained basis would help in its eventual productization and go to market. Or it could be a classic platform innovation, or an evolution happening in the existing um, um, scaled projects or scaled programs of Mastercard, where people or our engineers come out and try this out in the far more liberal ecosystem of an innovation lab, and see it through its success. So I don't think there's really stretch when people look at it, but it's more about, I would like to do this as well, right? And I would figure a way to get my time out of it. That said, there are dedicated set of people, product managers, and executives who are constantly looking at it. But this is really this is really just the other magnet which pulls people from their other day-to-day activities, which keeps Mastercard alive as well.
Great. Partha, I'm going to quickly move on to another question, because we have a bunch of audience questions coming in as well, and we need to take them. So the question to you is, how does Micron enable its employees to think out of the box beyond their day-to-day execution projects?
Yeah. So I will probably rephrase it in a different way. The day-to-day execution already demands out-of-the-box thinking. So that's the like I mentioned, right? The entire the way our business operates, it thrives on having the next technology enabled. So the day-to-day execution is already demanding some new approaches, new solutions, and probably there are not too many precedents to follow. Okay, so they may have some past experiences, but in order to get the new product out or new technology out, they require very new solutions, and that's part of the, let's say, challenge, part of the excitement, and that's what a lot of the team members, they really thrive on. Actually, that's the yeah.
Got it.
So so that's the way it is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Rajesh, we have another audience question for you. We want to know, what is the biggest challenge to innovate in a large company like Mastercard?
Yeah. So at any point of time, there are hundreds of projects happening in the innovation space at Mastercard globally, and India certainly leads from the front when it comes to driving such projects. It also comes at a fairly high cost of investment that we do in the space. There's often a saying that that is no different, that can be easily applied here, which is like, if you want to fail. If you want to succeed, in these markets, you have to learn to fail fast. And we often look at ways to, engage with partners and bring in such ideas to realization, which cannot really wait till the fag end of the day, right? We have to ensure that we quickly validate, trial it out, and see that if it's not hitting the market, or if it doesn't merit a large scale rollout, then it better be shelved sooner than later. So we have to fail fast when it comes to such cases, and this is something that I would also advise many other aspiring GCoEs as well, that ensure that you have some strong, robust mechanisms in place to ensure that when you have to call those shots, take those tough decisions, you are in a position to do it sooner than later. I think this will enable you to do better as days and months progress when it comes to engaging in more innovation projects.
Great, got it. Rajesh, Parth, I'm going to ask a couple of questions from the audience again. These are questions we keep getting a lot. So, how have you handled innovation related proof of concepts to execution? So, a challenge most people face is that the new ideas solve a problem, but may involve quite a bit of challenge to actually take it to execution. So, is there a different approach to how POCs need to be looked at? And have you faced something like this?
Partha, do you want to take it?
Yeah, definitely. I will say that what Rajesh mentioned, right? The spirit of fail fast needs to be built into the system. Okay, it's definitely
Yeah.
one important thing to be. If innovation has to thrive, the fail fast has to be a part of the system. Okay, and also some of the aspect of expertise, right? When we say we have a good amount of expertise, we also have what we call as shift left approach. I mean, what can be predicted as early as possible. So this is something also it's not easy to do that, but then more anticipatory we are able to cover a lot of ground, take into account a larger amount of risk as upfront as possible, and this kind of helps minimize the. Of course, when we say fail fast, it's not that fail sure, right? I mean, we need to try to succeed, and
Yeah.
much of it is a balance of risk taking and good analysis for what can work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So be sure of what you want to, do with the POC, and if it
Exactly,
doesn't,
and
just
then course
kill
correct as
projects.
very
Yeah.
fast. Be an agile place to course
Yeah.
correct as required. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
fundamental to the way innovation has to thrive.
Great, thank you. The other thing is, how do you measure whether a method, or how do you measure innovation currently, or how do you measure success or failure with related to innovation in your GCoEs?
Well, Partha, if I may, a few of the things that we keep in mind, while measuring our own success is the, number of lives we've really touched in the process of whole innovation, right? Given that we are primarily a large rail network, which is constantly, touching the lives of people in various forms, right? Day-to-day lives, whether it's a simple digital transaction or a simple assembly line activity, or in the entire value chain of product experience, you will have Mastercard playing a role there. What we have seen is that the journey is really about having some differentiator in place, right? And we measure our success in the form of number of patents and number of patents that actually have yielded go-to-market and revenue opportunities. We measure in the form of how many scalable platforms have been built out of our GCoEs. It's not that what applies or gets built in the markets of India should be be limited to markets like India alone, but a problem that one would face in the farming market like India could also be well addressed to if a similar problem is faced in the Vietnamese market or Indonesian market. So I think the ability to scale, replicate is one way where we measure our successes. And eventually it is all about taking a leadership position in the digital space. It's highly cutthroat and highly competitive, and the more market share and wallet share we have there in the in all the innovations that we've done, then I think that's success, and that's one of the best ways to measure your success.
Those are some great examples: scale, replicate, and focus on the customer and how many people you're able to impact. So that's great. Partha, how is it that Micron measures success?
Yeah, so something along the similar lines, I'll say, and a little bit what I mentioned before, right? We see innovation as a means to achieve things, and it's not an isolated thing by itself, right? So we have this our let's say the technology roadmap or product roadmap, these are hard problems to solve in the first place. Okay, so even the very fact that they come out automatically implies that there has been a lot of groundwork that has happened. Definitely, there are some innovative approaches that have been put in place, and a lot of this. Definitely, some of the quantifications or the number of patents or number of some of the mechanisms that happen here. But on top of it, what is the additional thing is to make sure that these are realized. I mean, the products are out at the right times, the technology is operational at the right times, and these are fundamental measures of how, let's say, innovative the organization is.
Great. So we have implementation and actually making sure
And-
things get implemented.
Exactly. So these are fundamentally hard problems to solve. Even if they are implemented at the right times,
Yes.
we will see a lot of innovative approaches that have gone into this coming out at the right times.
Great. Just one last question. Partha, at the beginning, you mentioned that it's not just about coming up with a solution, but it's really about going above the state of the art solutions. So, what are your top 2 suggestions to take innovations to top of state of art?
Yeah. So
Just,
yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned, there's many of the problems that we solve do not have precedence, right? So it's not that you can have some kind of perspectives from the past, but we need to have kind of a mindset which is open, which is curious, which is inquisitive, and coupled with fairly deep domain knowledge. There are 2 sides of the coin. Okay, we need to have very good domain knowledge, and we need to have an enthusiasm for solving problems and dealing with uncertainties, unknowns, and coupled together, I think they will definitely be the important factors in going beyond setting the new state of the art, so to speak.
great. Thank you. So this was a wonderful discussion. We're almost at the top of the hour. So it was wonderful having you both, Partha and Rajesh.
Pleasure. Yeah.
For the audience, would like to just give one message. So as we work towards the awards for 2021, we will be setting up sessions to walk you through the forms, as well as the question, taking all the questions that you might have. Innovation has become a lot more mainstream today than it was pre-COVID, and almost everyone believes that GCoEs have a very important role in driving innovation narrative from India. But the question is how. So and where do we start? So we hope that all of you get started onto this innovation narrative and start working on the innovation capabilities at your GCoEs. And we would really like as many of you as possible to apply for the 2021 awards. So thank you again for staying with us, and I'll hand over to Jupitora for the closing.
With this, we come to the end of today's event. Thank you, Partha and Rajesh, for taking out time out from your busy schedule and enlightening us. Thank you, audience. You've been amazing today. Without you, this would not have been possible. This session overall was truly engaging and insightful. On a personal note, I feel if each one of us had at least one takeaway from this session today, I think the overall intent of this session would be achieved. Given the interest of time, we couldn't take all the questions from the audience, but rest assured, we'll be sure to send them on an email and ensure that they are answered. If you have any other queries or questions, please feel free to reach out to us at insights@zinnov.com. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Take care, stay safe, and have a lovely day ahead.